Disney wishes that it made this movie instead. Welcome to the theater, everyone. I'm Jester, and last night I saw an early screening of The Boy and The Heron, Studio Ghibli's newest film. There's a lot of hype for it. I think a lot of the animation world is really hoping that something covers the tracks of how bad Frankly Wish was. I did a review of that you could go check out as well. But does The Boy and The Heron do the job? Is it going to meet the frankly high expectations that we have for Studio Ghibli? And where does it rank in the scheme of all Studio Ghibli films? These are all things I'm going to talk about today in this spoiler-free review of The Boy and the Heron.
So, you made it.
Mother!
Have a seat.
I'm just gonna start this off by saying very honestly, yeah, this was really easily the best movie of the year. And I don't think it's close. But that doesn't mean it's a perfect movie, so let me get into it. Might be pretty close, though. So I'm gonna keep this very spoiler-free, and because of how much the mystery of this film plays into how great of an expectation that you're going to have, I'm really not going to say very much plot-wise, because I don't want to spoil a damn thing about it for you. The newest Studio Ghibli film that was in fact directed by Miyazaki follows the story of 12-year-old Mahito after his mother was killed in a hospital fire during the Pacific War in 1943. Because of the war, he and his father Shiochi evacuate to their mother's estate in the countryside where they live with several old maids. Across from this house in the countryside, there's a sort of tower, which I'm just going to kind of describe very vaguely as a wizard's tower, and don't let that get you thinking that you know anything about what it's going to be. The thing that makes this movie so interesting for me, beyond just how breathtaking the visuals were from beginning to end, is the mystery. I saw this movie in a packed theater. Just as a comparison, I saw Wish at an early screening as well, and there were a lot more people in this theater than there were in the Wish one. And the energy of excitement and the energy of praise was just very different. And I just want to say, as a side note from the review, it really brought my heart joy that there was such a huge theater packed with people with a serious love for this film and for Miyazaki's work. I remember at the end of Wish, there was like one person that went like, yay! Like trying to get everyone to applaud, and no one really did. But at the end of this film, there was applause. There was a serious round of just like, wow, we were blown away. And it trickled in slowly because the movie had a sort of like, we just dropped a bomb of brilliance on you and you're kind of speechless, but the applause still came in. And gosh, this was just one of my favorite movie experiences that I've had of the entire year, maybe of the last several years, maybe one of my favorite movie theater watching experiences of all time. I'm happy that people love this more than Disney, and what I will say is if you only see one movie this year, this is the film that you should see. And if you have the opportunity to see it in IMAX, definitely see it in IMAX. I don't think I've seen something this visually stunning in a long time. In terms of the visual performance, I think this might be the best Ghibli's ever done. This is a visual masterpiece. I would have watched this movie on mute and still had an incredible experience. It opens with this backstory that I was describing of the firebombing and the kid's mother dying. The way stylistically that they do the fire in the beginning and the kid running through the flames is just out of this world. And once it starts getting into the fantasy element, which I will not dare spoil for you, it rivals some of the great films of all time like 2001: A Space Odyssey with just how incredible these visuals are. But I felt like I was in a timeless state watching this film. I seriously was so lost in the story, in the mystery. You see the heron the second the boy goes to the new place, the new countryside house. And from the very beginning, partially just from how great the sound design is too. Excellent sound design, beautiful visuals that create this just symphony of an experience. And the characters are beyond charming. There's a group of these like 7 old women who are kind of caretakers of the house when they move in, and they are beyond delightful to have in the movie. There's more personality in every single one of these old ladies' fingertips than is in any of the characters that were in the entire movie of Wish, as a recent example, something that I also reviewed, and something I'll bet a lot of you didn't see, and you probably don't need to, unfortunately. The heron, which I won't really go into detail about, but the heron is not what you were expecting. I don't know what you're expecting, but whatever it is, I guarantee you it's not what it ends up being. Unless you know. If you know, then it's probably what you expect. The Heron has so much personality. The side characters have so much personality. The magical world, which I'll lightly say is a thing, is unbelievably filled with personality and whimsy, and oh my god. And it's not devoid of a little bit of fear, too. Like, there are some... I'm not gonna call them, like, outright scary moments, but there's tension. There's real palpable tension in this movie. This is definitely not the pacing of My Neighbor Totoro. Actually, if I were to combine a few movies of Ghibli's to compare this to, it reminds me the most of an amalgamation of, like, Howl's Moving Castle, Grave of Fireflies, and Castle in the Sky. And I'm talking the best elements of all of those movies. Now back to the personality of the characters, the one critique that I would have of this movie is one that you could kind of expect, and it's a critique I actually have of a lot of Studio Ghibli movies. The protagonist, I'm not gonna call them boring, because I don't think that that's actually totally fair. They're subtle. And their subtleties play mostly to their advantage. I think that they say a lot by not saying a lot. And in general, this movie does a fantastic job of showing and not telling, which is one of the quintessential things that you want from a good movie. However, I do think that this boy does lack a little bit of emotion. There are times, and in all Ghibli films, we often see protagonists who go into these crazy fantasy situations, and we're kind of watching them like, how are you not fazed by this at all? This would make most 12-year-olds lose their nuts for one reason or another. And it's kind of a Ghibli protagonist trait at this point, where you have this, like, child character that's just kind of down for whatever's going on in the story. And it kind of makes the audience down for it as well, but every once in a while, it makes you kind of, like, turn your head, like, yo.
So, is that the truth or a lie?
A lie.
What? Okay, kid. You're just that desensitized that nothing phases you. Or you just have that little of personality. Again, I'm not coming for this movie. This is more of a nitpick than anything, because I think that in the voice actor subtlety, which, by the way, I should note that I did watch the subtitle version. I'm not a huge fan of watching dubs. As far as, you know, English dubs go, Ghibli's are some of the best. You need to have really good professional dubbing done so that you're not losing a lot in translation. So do I have any other issues with the film other than the protagonist being a little bit stiff? Which, again, it's Studio Ghibli. We can make some forgiveness for that. Not really! The sound design was incredible, the visuals were incredible, I thought the voice acting, though I don't speak Japanese, so what do I really know about that, was still really good. The personality was absolutely dripping in every character. I know I've probably said the animation was good a bunch of times, but it's f***ing really good. And I think the meaning is incredible. I think the mystery is actually one of the best parts, as I was saying earlier, because you don't fully know what the movie's going for in terms of, like, a straight-up message until you're getting towards the end, and I think that's fantastic. If you walk into a movie, and in the first 15 minutes you're like, alright, this is gonna be the beginning, middle, and end, and this is pretty much what the movie's trying to say, it's probably not saying anything that heavy. It's probably not really giving you a message that you don't already know. I want to be thinking throughout a movie, what is it trying to say? What is this movie completely about? What am I going into with this? I won't ruin anything for you, and if I end up doing another, like, full review of this movie, I'd actually really love to have a discussion with the commenters about what the meaning of this movie was, and what you got out of it. I'm hoping to get this review out before the movie is, like, fully released, so that people can watch this and go see it on opening day, because it's absolutely worth it. But if at some point you have seen the movie, I'd love to know in the comments what you thought about it, and what you think that the moral of the story is. It's done in such great subtlety that I think it's a movie that you can have discussions about, and it makes you think. It's gonna make you talk to people about what this movie was supposed to mean, and what is our takeaway as a human being living in the world, and how we should behave, and what we can learn from things like this. Because that's one of my favorite things about art, is what is this piece of art trying to say, and how can we live our lives better, listening to the moral and, you know, incorporating what it's trying to say into our own habits to make ourselves live a more harmonious, peaceful, whatever better life that we're trying to live. So go see the movie if you could make it happen. Go see it in IMAX, because it's f***ing incredible. Now, where does it rank in terms of all Ghibli films? Because it's really easy for me to say this is the best movie of the year. There haven't been that many good movies coming out this year. This ranks very highly to me. This is the kind of movie that it had so much going on in it, and it had so many elements of it, and it has such an interesting moral and story that I kind of want to see it again before I, like, really definitively say this. I think The Boy and the Heron easily qualifies for being one of the ones that people consider along Spirited Away. And to make a direct comparison, I like Spirited Away, but I don't think it's actually paced very well. Like, Miyazaki's great at taking their time, and I do agree that it is kind of nice to just have a journey that you go along with our protagonist, and the pace doesn't have to follow like a regular, you know, hero's journey narrative. I'm totally okay with that and down with it. But I really feel like the momentum of Spirited Away just kind of comes to complete halts every once in a while. This movie doesn't do that. There are not a lot of side tangents that I would ever feel like kind of getting distracted from the main crux of the plot, in my opinion. I would say in terms of the story, this is a lot closer to like a weird combination of Howl's Moving Castle and Grave of Fireflies. I like it better than Grave of Fireflies, just because Grave of Fireflies, oh my god, that is a painful movie to watch for anyone who's seen it. That is, ooh. I gotta be honest, I went into talking about this expecting to just say it's like one of the top 3. It might be the best Studio Ghibli film of all time. I don't know if that's recency bias. A lot of times when you see a movie in the theaters, you walk out of it, especially if it's really good, and you just think, best, number 1. And then once it sits with you for a while, you kind of change your tune on it a little bit and be like, actually, there's a few problems with it that I didn't realize because I was so taken away with how fresh and new and wonderful it was right off the bat. For now, my first impression, it might be the best Studio Ghibli film of all time. It really might. I think I'm going to wrap it up there because I just feel like I'll be repeating myself at this point if I try to say anything more about it, but go see this movie. Pay money to see this film. It's worth it. On that note, thank you all so much for watching this. I know that you usually see reactions out of us. I'm trying to not do that as much. I love film, I love animation, I'm taking the channel in this direction whether you like it or not. If you're somebody who looks at our videos and you think that you want to subscribe to a channel that does reviews and not reactions, I promise you, we're doing more reviews. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the button, support the channel, become a member, all that stuff. Helps me keep doing the thing and being, yay, energetic, jazzed up like I am, happy-go-lucky Jester. This movie was great. Toodaloo.